What is education? Now, unfortunately, education is one of those words that actually carries its own definition right inside of itself. So if you look at the word and then you break it into three parts, and then you expand each of those parts into three distinct words, you get edifying your vocation. So education is how you edify your vocation. Let's look at how each of those words is going to impact our understanding of the word itself. So the first is edifying. Now, edifying is simply lifting something up. So your job is to lift up your vocation. Now that sounds wonderful until you realize that that actually is the exact opposite of how we all currently look to our vocation. We look to a vocation to lift us up out of poverty, to lift us up out of insignificance in the eyes of the world, but that is backwards. Education is about you lifting up your vocation. That's the way it's supposed to be. Second word being it is your vocation, meaning that no one else can actually teach you about it. You can't go to a school to learn about your vocation. A school can teach you about a vocation or about many vocations, but none of those are actually your vocation. It is your responsibility to create a unique vocation that is yours and yours alone. And then the last word is vocation itself. Now you'll notice that vocation is very similar to the word vacation. And this is very important because as fallen human beings, we have this delusional idea that there is some job out there, this mythical job that would fill us with purpose and meaning and money and importance. But it does not exist. And we all eventually find this as we pursue such a path. So a vocation is not a vacation. A vocation, although it is enjoyable, although it is purpose driven, it is weighty. It's not something you simply can do, it's something you must do. So let me put a picture on this for you. If the purpose of education is to lift up your vocation, that's going to be heavy. You're going to be lifting it up. There's going to be a weightiness to that. And particularly if you really succeed in lifting that up, then the world's going to come to you and want to be blessed. The world's going to want to be lifted up by your vocation. So no longer are you just simply lifting up your vocation, but you're going to be lifting up every human being and all of creation that's attached to your vocation. And that's even heavier. So we come to this understanding that in education, it is your responsibility as a spiritual being, as a soul, to edify, to lift up your vocation to the world. So once we understand a little bit about what education is, we need to look at how is it even created? Well, the first thing in all human creation is spiritual knowledge. You have to know something. You have to know who you are. You have to know what your gift is to this world. And spiritual knowledge is when you know something, even though you don't mentally understand it, you don't emotionally feel it, and you haven't visibly experienced it yet. So there's no thought, emotion, or action, but you know something. That's what's commonly referred to as faith. And once you have that faith, once you know your vocation, even though you can't express it or feel it or understand it, suddenly your inner skills come online. Your mind, heart, and body want to help you. They want to partner with you in lifting up this vocation, which is presently just simply something you know. And they want to create the thoughts and the emotions and the actions. And it's magical. As soon as you know, suddenly your mind knows what to think. Your heart knows what to feel. And your body knows what to do. So the knowledge is the foundation for everything you create. And the end result of that are the visible creations you bring forth. The visible means of blessing the world that the world then looks to you, recognizes as something that can exalt them. But the only reason they know that it can exalt them is because you have already lifted up your vocation. So education begins in your soul with that spiritual knowledge, the knowing. It grows from within through the thought, emotion, and action. And then finally, ultimately, in time, becomes visible through the creations you send forth into the world. So as we look at what education is and how it's created, then we start to wonder, so why even create it? Why do we put all this effort and energy into lifting up a vocation? Well, the first reason in this fallen world that we do is we want to change something. We don't have enough money, we don't have enough recognition, whatever it is, whatever's motivating us, we think that the vocation is the means to lift us up, to change something about ourselves, to change our circumstances. But as we've already denoted, education is about you lifting up your vocation, which means you have to be greater first, and then you can reach down and lift up your vocation before the world. The second motive is to know darkness, and you'll see this with individuals who become very successful, such as musicians or artists or actors, and they go to this incredible peak where it seems like they're on top of the world, and then all of a sudden they financially or relationally just throw it all away overnight. And you sit there and you scratch your head, why would they be doing this? The reason they're doing this is they want to know the darkness. They know they're dark inside, but they don't know how bad it actually is. So they want to go to this incredible peak and then throw it all away and come crashing down, and then they think they'll know the darkness. Unfortunately, they never find that ultimate realization until they're dead, because that's how bad it actually is. Death is the end, because that is already the spiritual reality of every soul. And the body goes there to help the soul realize this is you, a dead spiritual being. There is a third reason, though, and that is to interconnect darkness. Now you say, well, why in the world would you want to interconnect darkness? Well, a good example of this is wealthy people. Wealthy people are always pointed at very often as, money grubbers, and they're duplicitous, they lie all the time, they're very corrupt, all these things. And that's true. However, a rich individual's soul is no darker than anybody else's soul. We're all dark together. We're all empty together. So why is it that you can see the darkness when someone's rich? The reason is they're more interconnected with the world around them. They generally have more relational connections, more material connections, and more financial connections. So each of those connections acts like a river from their soul, through their mind, heart, body, and out to the world. And then you can see how dark they are. But that doesn't change the fact that we're all dark souls. And the purpose of a vocation is to be between you and creation, between your soul and the world. And the vocation acts as the interconnecting agent. So, edifying your vocation, lifting it up, is all about interconnecting a dark world with your darker soul. And again, you say, but why would I want to do that? Why would I want to connect a dark world with my darker soul? Won't we just all die together? Yes, and you're currently doing this, and you're doing it very successfully. However, if your soul could possibly be bound to a spiritual being of light, a spiritual union with the Creator, then all those interconnections through your vocation become the means, the rivers, the canals by which you pour forth your spiritual knowledge and bless the world. But that's what a vocation is supposed to be. It interconnects you. And then the only question is, are you a dark soul, or are you a soul who's connected with the being of spiritual light? So once we see what education is, how we create it, why we even do it, we need to look at who even creates it. Now, the reason we have schools and teachers and all these things is because those are visible pictures of what was lost so many years ago in the Garden of Eden. When we rebelled from the Creator, we lost our connection with the spiritual team of educators. And that would be God the Father, God the Spirit, and God the Son. They have the blueprint for you. Do you want to know where your vocation comes from? It comes from the Creator team. Father, Spirit, and Son. You have to go there through a spiritual union of faith to learn about you, to learn about your vocation. And once you know a little bit about your vocation, suddenly your inner team, your mind, heart, body, comes along and they want to help. They want to be part of this exciting work. They want to help you lift up your vocation before the world. And what they do is they start producing thoughts, emotions, and actions to express what you know, what you received as spiritual knowledge from this Trinity of creators, Father, Son, and Spirit. And ultimately, once your thoughts, emotions, and actions are flowing forth, you start building a visible team. And these are other creators, other human beings who have unique skills and talents, of a unique vocation of their own. And you all work together, you all have complementary vocations, and you start building something big together in the world, something amazing that you all have an interdependent need upon each other. So in edifying your vocation, in lifting it up before the world, you need a spiritual, an inner, and a visible team. And you'll notice that you are the connecting agent between all three of those teams. All three realms, the spiritual realm, the inner realm, and the visible realm, your soul is the point of connection between all three. And that is our position as human beings. We are the connection between the Creator and the creation and all the other created creators, other human beings. And we all work together in order to build vocations that are aimed at blessing creation.